Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Living Manna Church. Hi, I'm Pastor Dave Sain, Senior Shepherd here at Living Manna. It's Wednesday night, which means for us it is Bible study night. Thank you so much for those of you that are logging on right now. Thank you for hanging out with me on this Wednesday night. Have a really, really great study for you tonight. Actually, tonight is the crescendo, right? Tonight's the finale. We've been talking about the mark, the name, the number for a while now. We kind of went off in a whole bunch of different directions. But everything that we've talked about before, all the studies we've gone over before, everything we've been doing really for months, has led up to tonight. Tonight is what I honestly have really wanted to talk to you about for months and months and months and months. But here we are today, and we got a neat study for you. So anyway, looking forward to it. A couple of housekeeping things just to put out there for you guys. Number one, if this is the first time you're hanging out with us, or even if you've hung out with us before but you have not subscribed, please subscribe. You can hit that bell for notifications. And if you enjoy the message, and I think that you will, please give us a thumbs up. We would appreciate that. And certainly the comments are open. So if you're online, let me know where you're watching from. Give me some feedback as we're going through this. It's a little bit of delayed, so I'm a couple of seconds behind, but I'll check out the comments as we go along. And if there's something that's neat or exciting, I'll mention it. Whole bunch of stuff going on. Here's the title for tonight. Actually, if you guys have watched, if you guys are on YouTube, you already know what the title is for tonight, but I'm going to put it up here anyway because it's a neat one. Here we go, guys. The title for tonight is 'Tis the Season. All right. So I know, right? You're looking at that, you say, oh my goodness, Pastor Dave lost it. We're going back to the whole Christmas thing. Nope. This is where we have been heading for months and months and months. And so let's jump into this. Let's open up with a word of prayer, and then we'll go right into the study. Abba, especially tonight, Father, give us eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart that's willing to obey. In the Master's name, amen. And believe me, you're going to need All of those: heart, ears, eyes. This is a really, really important one, and it really is based on all of the studies that we've been going over for, like I said, months, really, on the stuff we've been doing on the Maseroth, on stuff we've been doing on Shabbat, on stuff we've been doing on Wednesdays, on stuff we've been doing here in the name, the number, the mark. Now, as I said, tonight's the finale, and by that I mean this is the last study for the year. So next week there will not be a Wednesday night study. It won't be a Wednesday night study, and there will not be a Hidden Manna. So this upcoming Friday will be our last Hidden Manna as well for the 2023 season. 2024, obviously just right around the corner on the secular calendar. But we're going to take a week off. We've got a lot of housekeeping to do, lots of things to work on electronically and all that kind of stuff. And so we're going to take that week and do all that kind of stuff. So this is really going to be the end of it, and then we're going to pick up something brand new, even though obviously all the stuff that we've been talking about certainly is going to carry over. But for the series that we've been going through, this is the last one on the series. So it's good to see you guys jumping on tonight. Again, thank you so much for honoring me, being part of our study tonight. Believe me, you are going to want to watch the whole thing. Stay with me all the way through the study. You will not be disappointed. You may be challenged, but you will not be disappointed. Okay, so here we go. 'Tis the season. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you all... I'm sorry about that. I don't know why that happened. Wrong button. It wasn't the wrong button. Wrong screen came up. But here it is. 'Tis the season. So it's nice and big on your screens. If you're watching on TVs, this will help you read all the scriptures that we're going through. Of course, the scriptures are available. You can go down to the description box there and or go to the app, and you can download the notes. But here we go. 'Tis the season. Obviously, I am making a reference to the whole Christmas, Xmas season that is all over the place, all around us. You guys have been listening to it as you've gone to the stores. You've been listening to the music, to all the background stuff. It is everywhere. And it's not just everywhere here in New York. It's not just everywhere here in the United States. It's everywhere all over Europe. It's everywhere all over Asia. This holiday, or this thing that's called a holiday, is celebrated everywhere on the planet, from China to Asia to Russia to Europe to South America to North America, on every continent on the planet. This date or dates, because really what we're talking about here, and let me put this picture up so you guys can see it. Really what we're talking about is the winter solstice, right? So we all know you've been just looking outside, and it gets dark really, really early. Wake up in the morning, and actually you go to bed at night. Actually, by here up the Northeast, now it's already 7:36, but it's been dark for a while here. And of course, you wake up in the morning and it's dark. It's dark when you come in at night. It's dark when you come home at night. It's dark when you get up in the morning to go to work. It's just dark. This is the darkest time of the year, and of course, this has to do with the sun. And on the screen up there, I want to show you something, because this is really interesting. And this is going to be something that we're going to pick up in the upcoming year. I want to talk a lot more about the origins of why so many believe the way that they do, where a lot of our doctrines and stuff come from. But where we are right now, I got two pictures up there for you. Let me see if I can show you this. Here we go. You can see on here, I'm going to use my highlighter. This is the winter solstice. This is where we are today. And for us in our hemisphere, at around this time of year, in the midst of the end of December, become the darkest times of the year. That is when darkness is darker over a longer period of time, all the way up till from about December 21st, all the way to around January 6th. And it is called the winter solstice. Now, there is something totally opposite from it on the other side of the hemisphere, and that is the June solstice. So there's two solstices. There is the winter solstice, and there is the June solstice. And on the picture right, so this is what the whole world really, and for a long, long time, has been celebrating or memorializing or worshiping. That is the movement of the earth around the sun. This being the darkest time of the year, plants aren't going to grow, everything dies. More people die in the cold or of cold than they do of the heat. It's a lot harder to get warm than it is to get cold. Now, on the picture right next to it, because obviously this is you can see these two here. They are total opposites of one another. So on one side, winter solstice, on the other, or on one side the December solstice, on the other one the June solstice. But on the picture right next to it is not just the solstices, if that's the right way of saying it, but it's also the equinoxes. So the solstice would be the largest time of light versus the largest time of darkness, and the equinox would be equal light, equal darkness. So here is around March 21st is the spring equinox, and here around September would be the autumn equinox. And I want you to notice something, because this is going to be really important later on. We've all seen this. We all know this. We're all familiar with this, yet we're not familiar with it. This is the Mazzaroth. This is the sun, the moon, the stars. This is the place of the earth in connection to the sun and then all the stars around us. And the equinoxes and the solstices, when you look at them, I'm going to use my red marker here. I want you to notice what they make. When you connect the north, the south, the east, the west, the spring, the autumn, the summer, and the winter solstice together, they make a cross. This is not by accident. When we get into stuff in January, we're going to talk all about this, where this comes from and why this is here. And you're going to understand why that sundial appears behind the head of so many of the ancient pictures of the Christ as it is put forward to us. And you always, always, always see in all of those pictures, you always see the circular pattern. That is the entire Mazzaroth, the entire circuit of the earth around the sun. And then we always see this. And this is symbolized, and we'll get into the whole thing with the hand signals as to what it means. But here's the origin of it. The origin of it is in creation, at least the way men have looked at it. That's where the origin is. So we talk about now, December, of course, we are talking about the winter solstice. We're talking about this time of year right here. And if you're up on the North Pole, if you're at certain northern latitudes, it stays dark all day long. The sun never really makes it over the horizon. It's just dark. And so, of course, when we speak about winter, we always refer to winter as a dark time, a cold, hard, dark winter. And we've talked about this before, so it's not totally new to all of us. I'm just doing this as an introduction. We'll get more into this. However, the entire concept of the solstices and the equinoxes and their connection to the worship of men, because all four of those points are all part of pagan worship as it has come down to us throughout the ages to where we are today. And what we're really talking about, guys, is the Mazzaroth, because this is, just to give you a little view, here's the sun, and I'm just going to use the red here. There is 4 points, 2 solstices, 2 equinoxes. And then outside of them, of course, is the 12 constellations that tell us the story of Messiah, that tell us the story of the coming son, the promised son, to balance the scales. And then beyond them, and let me see if I can, I'm just going to make little X's here, are many, 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 many other stars, constellations. They're called deacons. Constellations that also tell the story of the coming son. And all of this, as we've talked about many, many times before, this is, in fact, the Mazzaroth, or today we would call it the zodiac. Now, of course, the zodiac is not really the same thing as the Mazzaroth, because the Mazzaroth is what Abba gave us. The Mazzaroth, according to Psalm 19, is the glory of Elohim that is in the sky. It is the story. Take out the word glory and just put it in the word story, or the purpose. It is the story that Elohim wants us to see when we look up. Throughout all the equinoxes, throughout the entire year, throughout the course of the sun, around the sun, throughout the year, is the story of the Messiah, as told, of course, in each one of the constellations. And just so you see that this is an integral part of every culture that there is. This is a mural that I believe is in the Senate building in Washington, D.C., and if you, hopefully it's big enough on your screens that you guys can see it. But I want you to notice something. That's the Mazzaroth, or that's the zodiac that we're seeing here. Because in the center, you have a throne, which is the sun. And then around it, you've got 12 different pillars. That is the 12 constellations. And then outside of that, you have all of the Greek and Roman and Persian and Asian and all the different gods, all the different stories that man has created as we have profaned the Mazzaroth, as we have changed the story. This is what is in Washington, D.C., which should tell you an awful lot about who we are as a nation. And it's not just us. This is everywhere. We're going to get more into the story of all of this in the upcoming year. But just to show you that this is part of our culture, even today, it is still part of our culture. It is the basis here within our governing system. It is put up there as a sign, as a statement. We still look to the stars. We still have a connection with the sun, the moon, and the stars. All right. So having said all of that, this, however, is profaning the Mazzaroth, because the story that this tells is not the same story that Abba tells us here. Yes, I mean, it is the same story in that it's the same stars, but as man has looked to the stars, we've changed the story. We've tweaked the story. We've told a different story than the story that was handed down from Adam to Seth to Enoch to Noah, from Noah to Abraham, and on down through creation to get to the house of Israel, to get us to the Messiah, because the whole thing is about the story of the Messiah. I know it's a little bit of review for some of you guys. Hopefully you follow me on that. If it's new for you, wait till next year, in 2024. We'll get into all of this in some great detail and check it out. So the winter solstice is connected to the Mazzaroth. The winter solstice, both solstices, both equinoxes, they are all part of this story. Then they depict different things at different times. Okay, so with that being said, here is the intention of the Mazzaroth. Now, I've got two pictures here I want to show you, and we're not going to get into too much detail with all of them, but this picture up here, up on top, that's what's called the Enoch Mazzaroth. And that actual picture, that mural, appears in synagogues. In synagogues all over the Middle East, they have the zodiac, the Mazzaroth. They have the Mazzaroth in synagogues all over the Middle East because they knew the story. They understood the story. And not now, we just don't have time to get into it. But at some point, we're going to take a look at the Enoch zodiac, or the Enoch Mazzaroth, and you're going to find out that this picture that I just highlighted in yellow, everything in that picture is the book of Revelation, is the book of Ezekiel, is the book of Isaiah. Because what we have here is a wheel. Let me use a different color, something that pops out a little bit. Let's use red. It is a wheel within a wheel with the sun, the moon, and the stars in the middle, 4 living creatures, and the wheels have eyes. Each one of these animals, and each one of the angels outside, they all have eyes. That's exactly what Ezekiel sees. A wheel within a wheel full of eyes. He's talking about the Mazzaroth, the zodiac. The Mazzaroth, the zodiac, is so important to us. And it's a part of the story so many of us have just been blind to. Nobody's really ever explained it to us, but it is integral for understanding everything. Because ultimately, what Abba does, let me just erase some of this. Ultimately, what Abba does is when he picks the house of Israel, picks Abraham, picks Isaac, picks Jacob, has 12 sons that come from him. Moses takes them out of Egypt. When Moses goes to the mountain, he's told how the house of Israel is supposed to encamp. And the way that they encamp is, I'm going to use blue here, is the Mishkan, or the tabernacle, in the center, with the sun and the high priest, the moon. And surrounded in the camp are 12, I'm not going to go through all 12 of them, but you can see in the picture there, not just 12 different zodiacs, 12 different tribes. And each one of the signs of the zodiac or the Mazzaroth corresponds to one of the tribes of the house of Israel. So quite literally, the house of Israel is an earthly representation of what is in the stars. That is the position of the sun throughout the year. That is the 12 constellations and the story they tell, and the constellations behind them and the story that they tell. And that's why there's such instruction and command to Moses that whenever they move the camp, they have to set up just like this. When they finally get to Jerusalem, they build Jerusalem according to this model. The temple is in the center. Jerusalem has 12 gates that surround it in a circular fashion. It is an earthly representation of the heavenly model of the Mazzaroth that tells the story. That's incredible. That's absolutely mind-boggling. And we'll get more into this a little bit later. I just wanted to show you that Abba's the one that set this up. This is Abba's story. This is Father telling us the story of the coming Son in the very creation. However, like we just finished saying, we've really profaned, by we, of course, I mean humanity. We have terribly, terribly profaned the story of the Mazzaroth. And if we don't understand the story of the Mazzaroth, we're going to wind up profaning the written story of the Torah as well, and the Torah and the prophets, and we have. So what does Abba desire of you and I with regards to the Mazzaroth? What is its purpose? Well, I can tell you what absolutely is not its purpose. Here it is, Deuteronomy chapter 17 and verse 2. It says, we're reading sort of in the middle of things, but follow with me. He says, when there is found in your midst, in any of your cities, which Yah your Elohim is giving you, a man or a woman who does what is evil in the eyes of Yah your Elohim, in transgressing his covenant. So how do you transgress his covenant? How do you profane Abba's covenant? Well, there's a whole bunch of different ways to profane Abba's covenant, but look at the way he talks about here. And has gone and served other mighty ones and bowed down to them. Or, here it is, guys, to the sun, to the moon, or any of the host of heaven of the heavenly scroll. So, in essence, what he's saying, and let me go back here just for a second to this picture so you guys can see it. The host of heaven, I went a little bit too far. The host of heaven is here, are these stars, and the stars that are beyond it, and all the constellations, and the sun, and I don't see the moon there, but the moon's there somewhere, and the moon. That do not anyone who begins to make, here it is, who begins to make gods. who begins to make Elohim, which is exactly what we've done, of the sun, the moon, and the stars. So how do we transgress the covenant? Just as he says here, has done evil in the eyes of Elohim in transgressing his covenant, and has gone and served other mighty ones and bowed down to them, or to the sun, to the moon, or to any of the host of heaven, of the heavenly scroll, which I have not commanded. Abba has not commanded us to worship a solstice, to worship an equinox, to worship the sun, to worship the moon, to worship the stars. They are there for a purpose. They do tell a story. They are the glory of Elohim, but they are not there to be worshiped. Of course, what have we done throughout time? Exactly the opposite. And we're still doing it today, guys. Again, we'll talk more about this in the upcoming year, but think about how many superhero movies there are out. And what are all the main characters of the superhero movies? Gods. Gods who became men from the stars. Whether it is Loki or it is Thor or Thanos, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Flash, Hermes, all of the different gods, we're still telling the stories of the gods of the stars. We've done it for a long, long time. We're still worshiping them. And Abba here clearly commands his people, don't do that. If you do that, you have broken the covenant. This is important. So what does Abba give us out of the stars? Well, the stars are there for appointed times, for seasons, the 4 different seasons, but for appointed times, Genesis tells us. What appointed times? The times when Abba wants to meet with us. And what are those times? Well, they're down here in quotations. Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, Shavuot, trumpets, atonement, tabernacles. That is, from the spring to the fall are the appointed times of worship, not to worship the stars, but to worship Elohim, to understand the story, to walk through the wedding feast from its beginning to its end. There is no commandment, guys. Think about this. There is no commandment, no instruction for a winter solstice celebration. There just is no commandment, no instruction for it. Say, well, does it really matter if God didn't give instruction? Yeah, it should matter to the people of Elohim that we should do or guard everything Abba has given to us. Because once we start profaning it, once we start changing the story, that's when we get involved in all of these different things. And basically, just across the culture, let's take a look at a couple of things with regards to the winter solstice. Here's just some information from an article I read on all the different practices that go on in the worship of the winter solstice. Guys, every culture has some sort of worship, some sort of tradition, some sort of ceremony for the winter solstice, for the spring solstice, for both of the equinoxes. Every culture on the planet does, except the house of Israel, except the people of Yah. Father instructed or did not give us instruction for the winter solstice. So here's just a couple of things. Just want to highlight, just give you an idea. This goes on all around the world. This is called Soyal. It is the winter solstice celebration. I'm just going to read right off it, guys. You guys can follow me. Soyal is the winter solstice celebration of the Hopi Indians of northern Arizona. Ceremonies and rituals include purification, dancing, sometimes gift giving. At the time of the solstice, the Hopi welcome the Kachinas, protective spirits from the mountains. Prayer sticks are crafted and used for various blessings and other rituals, all according to the stars, according to the winter solstice. So we've got these man-made twists. And where does all this come from? Well, it comes from the Tower of Babel. That's at least where it starts. And it is in every single culture. Here is this we should be a lot more familiar with. This is the Persian festival of Yalda, or Shabe. Shabe Yalda is a celebration of the winter solstice in Iran that started in ancient times. It marks the last day of the Persian month of Azar. Yalda, viewed traditionally as the victory of light over dark. Because what happens at the winter solstice, it's the darkest time of the year, but from that point on, it begins to get lighter just a little bit earlier, until we get to the springtime, and then, of course, we get the spring equinox. So it's the victory of light over dark, and here it is. And the birthday of the sun god Mithra. The winter solstice is the birthday of the sun god Mithras, who is actually Tammuz, Helios, Mithra, Apollo, all consecutive versions of the same sun god. So when is the birth of the sun worshipped in multiple cultures all over the world? During the winter solstice. Families celebrate together with special foods like nuts and pomegranates, and some stay awake all night to welcome the morning sun. Here's another one. Let me just get rid of some of these lines here. This is called Inti Raymi. Inti Raymi. This solstice celebration comes in June rather than December because it's the other side of the planet. But for Peru, it's a winter solstice. And this is an Incan celebration, still done in Peru. And this Incan celebration is in honor of sorry guys, I lost my spot there, is in honor again of there it is, sun god. Originally celebrated by the Inca before the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors, the festivities included feasts and sacrifices of animals and possibly even children. This is dark. The Spaniards banned the holiday, but it was revived with mock sacrifices instead of real ones, but still the idea is there, in the 20th century, and it is still celebrated today. All over the world, the winter solstice is celebrated. Here's some more. Take a look at this. This is some stuff we should be familiar with. This is the Saturnalia. This is the Roman one. The ancient Roman festival of Saturnalia, which lasts 12 days, normally from around December 25th, or from what our calendar would be, around the mid to December to the beginning of January, December 25th to around January 6th. That is where, honestly, this is what you're going to see. This is probably one of the things most related to the modern version of the winter solstice celebration we call Christmas. This is where we get the song, The 12 Days of Christmas. Comes from the 12 days of Saturnalia. And it says, the ancient Roman festival of Saturnalia is perhaps the most closely linked with the modern celebration of Christmas. And you're going to find out that Christmas is really a mishmash of all the different cultures together. It says this festival happened around the time of the winter solstice and celebrated the end of the planting season. There were games and feasts and gift giving for several days, and social order was inverted. Now, this article doesn't kind of really give you all the flavor of what's going on, because the 12 days of Saturnalia, when it says their social order was inverted, it was inverted by sex, orgies, and just overall debauchery for 12 days. And the slaves did not work and were briefly treated as equals. This is what Saturnalia was all about. And a lot more to it than just that. But that's at least the base. So this is sort of the Roman version of the celebration, the worship of the sun god during the Saturnalia, during the winter solstice. Here is the next one under here. Dongzi, and it means the arrival of winter, is an important festival in China. It is a time for family to get together and celebrate the year they have had. based on the traditional Chinese celestial calendar or the zodiac, the holiday generally falls between the 21st and 23rd of December. It is thought to have started as an end of harvest festival, with workers returning from the fields and enjoying the fruits of their labors with family. Special foods such as tang yuan, glutinous rice balls are enjoyed. So this is everywhere, guys. Every culture has a winter solstice celebration. Every culture is worshiping the sun, recognizing the sun, or the son of the sun god. Here is something called Linaya. And Linaya was celebrated from the 12th to the 15th of a month called Gamalion, which is winter, December. Roughly December or early January, just like the 25th to the 6th. This is a Greco-Roman. So they got it from the Greeks, but the Romans adopted it, just like they adopted Saturnalia. It's called Bacchanalia. Actually, Bacchanalia was a worship that went on all throughout the year, but there was the special winter celebration of Bacchanalia in the Greco-Roman religion. And again, it was any one of several festivals called Bacchus. And he's not just named Bacchus. You also might know him as Dionysus, the wine god. And how did they celebrate the winter solstice? Sex, orgies, and debauchery of all kind. And this is why we read in the writings of Saul when he says, "Be not drunk with wine, which is in excess." He's talking about the worship of Dionysus. He's talking about the worship of the god of wine that many Jews were part of. They were doing the same thing the Romans and the Greeks were doing. They were part of all of that stuff. Peter tells us we used to do all of that stuff. Now get out of it. Don't do that anymore. That's what he's referring to when he says, "Do not be filled with wine, which is in excess, but be filled with the spirit of Abba." Because they went to these worship things in the winter solstice and all the other holidays of the sun and the moon and the stars, and they involved themselves in sex and orgies and debauchery of all sorts of kinds that you could imagine. And I'm only giving you a couple. The Germanians had all of their winter solstice holidays and rituals and ceremonies. The Britannians had all their holidays and rituals and ceremonies of the winter solstice. The Druids had all their ceremonies. The Norwegians had all their ceremonies. The Russians had everybody, the whole of humanity, from the days of Babel, Babel, which corrupts the story of the sky, corrupts the story of the heavens, creates a sun god and the son of a sun god and a moon goddess. This gets spread everywhere, and every culture does it. This has been part and parcel of every culture. And in one sense, I can understand it because, yeah, winter's coming. It's a time of death. It's a time of cold. And what's one of the only things that actually stays alive and is full of life and green during the winter? A fir tree, or we call it an evergreen. Today we call it a Christmas tree. And so the worship, and it's a phallic symbol, and so the worship of that, or the incorporation of that thing in all of the worship, became part and parcel in multiple cultures. So I'm not trying to give you a whole rundown on Christmas because, quite honestly, guys, we've done this before. We've talked about this before. And you can just go on Google, go on DuckDuckGo, whatever thing you use, and just type in truth about Christmas. Go to YouTube, type in truth about Christmas, and you'll get dozens of different videos that you can watch. Spend an hour or two and just go through them. Some of them are really, really good. Some of them are, sort of a Christian base, trying to make the case for it. But go through them, and all of them will tell you the same thing. It is pagan. Its rituals are a conglomeration of multiple cultures, all in the worship of the winter solstice, the sun god, or the son of the sun god. This is irrefutable. This is true. Again, did Abba give instruction for his people to be involved in winter solstice celebration? Absolutely not. There is no clear instruction with regards to that. So, with that, the idea of modern Christmas in the first century, the second century. That is the recognition of the birth of Messiah. They didn't do it in the first century. They didn't do it in the second century. They didn't do it in the third century. And they didn't do it in the fourth century. It only began after Constantine, after Rome establishes Christianity in the form that we know it today, or at least in the foundational form as we now know it today. Here's an article, or parts of an article from 2016 called "Other Gods Born to Virgins on December 25th." I got the addresses down there. You guys can go check it out. It's a good article. It comes from a Christian perspective, but it gives you a lot of good information. And here's just a couple of clippings from it. It says the idea that Christ, obviously it's from a Christian perspective, the idea that Christ was born on December 25th doesn't appear in the historical record until the 4th century AD. The earliest Christian writers, such as Origen, Tertullian, Irenaeus, and the gospel authors themselves, are silent on the subject. Well, they're more than just silent on the subject, but we'll get to that in just a second. I'm talking about the gospel writers. It says the second part of it down there, so you guys can see. I'm right here. The Roman Empire. Now, check this, guys. This is really important. The Roman Empire declared December 25th on their calendar, as it was, a holiday to celebrate the birth of their adopted Syrian, or really Babylonian, god, Sol Invictus, who was Tammuz, who was Helios, who was Mithras, and by the time this comes along, Apollo. So, they did this in 274 AD. Here's the note right here. You guys can see it. So December 25th, the winter solstice, the celebration of the Syrian god, Sol Invictus, the sun god, in 274 was adopted by Constantine. Some 50 years later, the Roman Emperor Constantine officially adopted, or Rome adopted it. Later on, Constantine does. The Roman Emperor Constantine officially adopted December 25th as the day for celebrating Christ's birthday. So this whole thing gets started by a pagan who worshiped the sun and decided to declare, since they couldn't worship or couldn't amongst the believers of Messiah that day get away with the idea of worshiping a sun god, declared what was already done for thousands of years in multiple cultures. Don't forget, Rome had multiple cultures in it. All those cultures, the Germanians, the Brits, the Druids, they were all part of the Roman Empire. So they all had their own cultures already. They were already celebrating the winter solstice. And so to make it easier, they said, well, that's just Christ's birthday. Before 1000 BC, we have the following gods or demigods born on December 25th. And there's a whole bunch of them. Horus, Osiris, Attis. Before 200 BC, Mithra, Heracles, Dionysus, Tammuz, Adonis, and many others. Many others. This whole idea of the winter solstice was connected throughout ancient culture with the sun, the longest day of the year, the darkest day of the year, the beginning of light, and the worship of the sun. This is across every culture. And again, you guys can just, look this up yourself. It's everywhere. And again, I don't want to do a whole teaching on where Christmas comes from, because it's been done by so many people and there's such good information out there. But there is something I want to share with you that is important, that is connected to everything we've talked about so far. And I really want you to put on your spiritual thinking caps here, because this is crazy stuff. I know it's going to upset people. I know some people are going to twist over this, but that's why we ask: eyes to see, ears to hear. And once you see it and once you hear it, then you've got to wrap your mind around it or your heart around it and really decide, oh my goodness, if that's true, then I need to be doing some things. And I know most of us at least with the concept, the idea of Christmas. Most of us don't have to be convinced anymore. We've kind of gotten there. But listen to this, guys. This goes back to the abomination of desolation. We've talked about this multiple times, the book of Maccabees. Now, we've went over the story of Maccabees. We went through, all its connection. Messiah tells us when you know the abomination of desolation is coming. It's coming. It's near when you see Jerusalem surrounded by its enemies. Now, all of us are being told, and we've been told this for quite some time. We're being told that what Messiah is talking about is something that's going to happen at the end of the age. Some guy's going to come up and he's going to be in the temple. He's going to proclaim himself God, and the whole world's going to go bonkers for him. And that's going to be the abomination of desolation. So for, something like 1,600, 1,700 years, that's been the prevailing wisdom. That's what Messiah is talking about, except Abba speaks in patterns. He gives us a literal explanation of something, a prophecy, to help us understand what's coming. So here's the prophecy, guys. Check this out. All right, I think I'm back up. Give me a second. Give it a couple seconds to come through here. Hopefully, guys, this works. Boom, I think I'm back up. Yes. Praise Yah. Back up. I have no idea what happened. The enemy does not want you guys to hear this. That's sort of my spiritual concept in all of this. This is crazy stuff. So we're looking at this as a prophecy. I don't know where you guys fell off, but we're looking at the story of the Maccabees as a prophecy. So here's the abomination of desolation. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to the Greek religion of idolatry. His religion is lawless. And they sacrifice to idols. They profane the Sabbath. For the king sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. That is, the laws of the Greeks. So syncretism. They're mixing, actually they're removing the things of Abba and replacing it with something else. Verse 45, and they forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days and pollute the sanctuary and the holy people. They, the Greeks, who took this whole thing over, they set up altars and groves, trees, and chapels, cathedrals of idols, and they sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and that their souls uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. How? Through sex, orgies, and debauchery of every kind imaginable. This is really important because the concept, just a side note, the concept of circumcision, the principle of circumcision is not the circumcision of converts when they come in. Converts, when they come in, are allowed to come in without circumcision. But once they understand, the concept was you circumcised your children as a show of your faith to raise them in a certain way. That was stopped. That was stopped. They weren't allowed to do that. Verse 49, I'm right here, guys. Hopefully you guys can see. It says, to the end, this is the end product, to the end that they, meaning the Jews, meaning Israel, the believers of Yah, to the end that they might forget the Torah, that they might forget the instruction of Elohim, that they might forget the law, that they might become, here it is, guys, lawless. That the Israelites would become lawless and change all of the ordinances. For what? For pagan ones. Change all the feast days. For what? For pagan ones. Change everything. For what? For pagan ones. This is the whole Hanukkah story. Verse 50. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. And here it is. Listen to this, guys. Now on the 15th day of the month of Kislev, the month of Kislev to you and I is December. So in the middle of the month of December, in the 145th year, they, meaning the Greeks, set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar. So what's the abomination of desolation? Here it is. I'm just going to circle this here. They set up a statue of Zeus before the altar. Where Abba's presence is supposed to be, it is removed, and through syncretism, the taking over of the temple, the removal of the Torah, the removal of the commandments, the removal of the instruction, an idol is set up in the heart of the temple. When? On the 15th day of December of the month of Kislev. It's not exactly verbatim same date as we would have today, but close enough. In the 145th year. That's when they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. So why'd they do this? Why set up this altar? They'd been beating down the Jews for a long time before this. They had already been surrounded by armies. Why now, after all this time, do this thing, do this abomination of desolation? And when did they do it? They did it during the month of Kislev. Why? Because to the Greeks, it was the winter solstice. It was the time of the worship of the sun god. And they wanted that in the temple. And days later, verse 59, I'm all the way down here. Follow me. I know some of you are probably thinking ahead of me, but here we go. Now, on the 5th and 20th, on the 25th day of Kislev, on the 25th day, what time is this? What season is this? The winter solstice, of which every pagan religion going all the way back to Babel worships the sun god in Kislev or in December. On the 25th day of the month of the winter solstice, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar that they set up on the 15th. So they set up their altar on the 15th, knowing that on the 25th, as the worship of the winter solstice, as the worship of the sun comes around, we've already got an altar there. And they worshiped upon the altar, which was upon the altar of God or the altar of Elohim. When did this happen? When did they do this? They did it on the 15th and the 25th of Kislev during the winter solstice. Now, later on, when the temple is cleaned, the memorial is on the day that this happened, That's the Hanukkah story. That's why our Jewish brethren are lighting, 9-branch menorahs through this month, commemorating the cleaning of the temple. When really what we're supposed to be doing, because the cleaning of the temple is coming, that's the end of the story. What we're really supposed to be doing is understanding this part of the story, understanding what just happened during the winter solstice. A lawless one came in, sets up an idol in the heart of the temple, profanes all the people, removes the Torah, removes everything that is of Abba, so that the people would forget Abba's law, and initiates on the winter solstice the abomination of desolation. That's what we just read. That's what's here. Right in front of us. It's right in front of us. It's right in front of us. This is what happened. Now, we know the Maccabee story, how they clean it, but this is important. This, many of us, we've just never seen. It's never been explained to us. Guys, check this out. Here is Rav Shaul, Paul, telling us the Hanukkah story is coming again. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3. Let no one deceive you in any way. I'm going to say that again, guys. Listen to this. Please listen to this. Let no one deceive you in any way. Because the falling away is to come first. And the man of lawlessness, I put a little PDP version in there so you can wrap your mind around it. I know we talk about a man and we're thinking about some guy who's going to come out of a temple. It's not a man, it's an image of a man, an idol of a man. And the image of the man of lawlessness. Well, what's lawlessness? No Torah. No instruction. So who is coming? Someone, an image of a man who has no Torah, no prophets, no instruction, is to be revealed. And look what he's called. Guys, I put it in pink. It's called the Son of destruction, who, this son, opposes and exalts himself above all that is called Elohim, or that is worship, so that he sits as Elohim in the dwelling place of Elohim. So what's the real dwelling place of Elohim? Because guys, as much as this is amazing, this right here, this is not the dwelling place of Elohim. Because we are told, expressly we are told, that Elohim does not dwell in buildings made by men. That's not the abode of Elohim. Where Elohim wants to abide, where Elohim wants to be, is in the heart of men, of which you and I are the temple of Elohim. So, back here, so that he sits as Elohim in the dwelling place of Elohim in the hearts of men, showing himself that he is Elohim. Do you not remember that I told you this while I was still with you? Well, how could Saul tell him about this story beforehand? Well, first Maccabees, reading the story of Hanukkah, because that's what he's talking about here. This is the abomination of desolation. And every Bible scholar there is out there will look at that and say, yeah, that's the abomination of desolation. That's what happened in the Hanukkah story. This is what Messiah is talking about. But he's not talking about some guy off in the future. He's talking about something much, much bigger than that. Verse 9, I'm skipping a couple of verses here, but it goes down to verse 9. It says, the coming of, and again, the PDP version, the coming of the one who denies the Torah, who tells us the Torah is not for you. The Torah is a burden. The coming of the one who denies the Torah, or the lawless one, is according to the working of Satan. Well, we spent weeks and weeks and weeks talking about Revelation 13, that he is going to set up an idol, an image. And who's going to be the power behind it? Satan is. That's what Saul's talking about. Revelation 13. The lawless one is coming according to the working of Satan with all, PDP version, with all religious power and signs and wonders of falsehood, things that are not true, holidays, feast days, ceremonies, doctrines, priesthood, teachers, all of it lawless, not of the Torah. And with all deceit of unrighteousness in those perishing, because they did not receive the love of the truth. Well, what's the truth? Well, Messiah tells us unequivocally, and it's from cover to cover in the scripture. What is the truth? Abba's word is the truth. Psalm 119, Messiah, John chapter 17, your word is truth. The word in the stars, the word in the Torah, the word in the prophets, the story of the coming son. All of the instruction is the truth. And the people who get deceived by the one who is lawless do not receive the love of the truth. It's not for them. They think it's a burden. The love of the truth, the heavenly scroll, the Torah, the prophets, in order for them to be saved. And here it is. Look at verse 11. And for this reason, because they will not listen to the truth. They think the truth. I guess you could say it's each individual's fault, but it's what the deceiver has told us. And because we don't check for ourselves, we get in this situation. And for this reason, Elohim sends them a working. In other versions, if you listen to it in other versions, I like the way some other versions put it. It says Elohim sends them a strong delusion, a working delusion for them to believe the falsehood. So Elohim sees that their heart is unequivocally opposed to the truth of Abba's word, the truth of the Torah, the truth of the prophets, the truth of the Maseroth in the sky. They've twisted it, they've turned it, they bent it, they said it's not for them. They're believing this lawless one, this religion that's come about, setting up an idol in the hearts of men. And because they have, Abba will make them believe it, will give them strong delusion for them to believe the falsehood. Oh my goodness. Those are some crazy words. Those are some crazy, crazy words. Here is Deuteronomy. Here's the truth. So we talk about the truth they would not believe. Here's the truth. Deuteronomy chapter 12 and verse 1. Pay attention with me. Open up your eyes. Put on your spiritual thinking caps. Deuteronomy chapter. We can look at this in multiple places. I just picked Deuteronomy 12 as one. It says, these are the laws and the right rulings which you are to guard. That is all the people of Abba, ever. We are supposed to guard this instruction. Guard it, to do it in the land which Yah, your Elohim of your fathers, is giving you to possess all the days that you live on the soil. So people say, well, that's about them possessing the land. That's got nothing to do with us. Well, we're going to possess the land too. This has everything to do with us. We are also going to possess a kingdom. This has everything to do with us. In fact, it has even more to do with us than even what their understanding of it was back then. We need eyes to see. Verse 2 says, completely destroy all the places. Now I'm putting the PDP version here so it sort of makes sense spiritually to us because it goes from the literal to the spiritual. Completely destroy all the places. Not the places when you go into the land, not the altars and the idols and the trees and the groves and the Asherah poles that ancient Israel had to get rid of when they went into the land of Canaan. You destroy those things in your heart. You destroy all the idols and altars and groves and ceremonies and things because we've all done it. Every culture's done it. Every culture has a winter solstice. Every culture has a spring thing. Every culture has multiple traditions based on the stars, based on all the beings, the demigods that come down from the stars. Completely destroy all the places in the heart of man where the nations which you are dispossessing serve their mighty ones. They serve the sun, the moon, and the stars. The very thing Abba said to Israel, don't do. They served them on the high mountains and on the hills under every green tree. Oh my goodness. And you shall break down their slaughter places and smash their pillars and burn their asherim with fire. And you shall cut down the carved images of their mighty ones and shall destroy their name out of that place. Do not, and I put the PDP version again in there so you get a good flavor for what's being said. When he says do not, he means do not mix. Do not take the things that the nations do. Do not take the things that the pagans do and mix it with the worship of Abba, which is exactly what the Greeks did. Do not mix the worship of Yah, or do not mix to do so to Yah your Elohim, but seek the place. What place? Well, they don't know about it yet, but Jerusalem is the place that they're going to seek. And for us, we are still seeking the same place, except it's New Jerusalem, which Yah your Elohim chooses out of all your tribes to put his name there for his dwelling place, and there you shall enter. Guys, I want you to see in your mind, I want you to compare this to what we just read in Maccabees and all the things that they did in Maccabees and all the ways they got rid of the Torah and all the ways they got rid of the law and all the ways they made the people worship these false idols. And then in the winter solstice to set up an idol for everybody to worship and on the 25th at the winter solstice to offer up offerings on this altar. If you take those verses and you compare them with Deuteronomy 12 verse 1, Deuteronomy 12 is the exact opposite of the abomination of desolation. The exact opposite. This is what we are supposed to do. And that's what was done to the house of Israel all those many years ago. I know I'm getting excited, but this is exciting stuff. Let's take a look. So, is the winter solstice pagan? Well, yeah. We've got proof of it in the Maccabees. We've got proof of it all over the place in culture. We've got proof of it that this appears in every single pagan religion there is in the world. Is it pagan? Yes. Well, if it's pagan, is it truth? Well, the answer to that is no. And yet, here's Luke chapter 2 and verse 7. And she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him up and laid him down in a feeding trough because there was no room for them in a lodging place. And in the same country, there were shepherds living out in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. And look, a messenger of Yah stood before them, and the glory of Yah shone around them, and they were greatly afraid. And the messenger said to them, do not be afraid, for look, I bring you good news of great joy, which shall be to all people. Because there is born to you today in the city of David a Savior who is Messiah. And by Messiah, study from weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks ago, it doesn't mean Christ. It doesn't mean anointed one. It means the King of Israel. Who was born on this day? The King of Israel. Here's Matthew chapter 2 and verse 1. And Yeshua, or Yahusha, having been born in Bethlehem of Judah in the days of Herod. So this is many, many months after the story we just read in Luke chapter 2. Many, many months after that, they saw Herod the king, the Magi, who are astrologers, who read the stars, who know the Maseroth, from the east came to Jerusalem saying, where is he who was born King of the Jews, the King of Israel? Who is he? He's the King of Israel. For we saw his star in the Maseroth in the east and have come to do reverence to him. So let me ask you, did this happen during the winter solstice? There is honestly nobody on this planet who believes that this happened in the winter solstice. Even amongst all of those that keep Christmas or Xmas or whatever it is that you want to call it, here's what you'll hear them all say. Well, we know he wasn't born on this day. Then that means it's a lie. It's not the truth. We've taken a story that is holy, that has real roots in the Maseroth, and we've connected it to the winter solstice, to the worship of the sun and the son of the sun God, We've connected it to that story. Doing what to it? Profaning our temples. Doing exactly what the Greeks did in the story of the Maccabees. Doing the same exact thing. Guys, there is no doctrinal statement anywhere. You can check this out for yourself. There is no doctrinal statement anywhere that I have ever found that when it talks about the coming Messiah or the coming Christ, defines him as the King of Israel. And yet this is who it is. So if it's the King of Israel, and Abba did give the sun, the moon, and the stars, and he did give it as an example for Israel, and it is the pattern of the house of Israel, and it is the pattern of the Maseroth, and it is the pattern of Jerusalem, and yet there is no instruction of Abba for the winter solstice. Why would Abba allow, or why would Abba want us to then begin to worship him and recognize the sun during the winter solstice, a pagan time of the year? Well, beloved, is that truth? The quick answer is no, it's not. We all know it's not. We know he wasn't born on December 25th. Lots of other gods were, but not Messiah. To believe this, despite it being not true, we could say, well, it's just sort of religion. It's sort of what we do. And it's just, the holiday thing and everybody's doing it. It's such a nice time. It's the most wonderful time of the year. 'Tis the season, right? It's not true. It's not truth. And many are under a strong delusion to believe this lie. 1 John, listen to this verse, please. 1 John chapter 2 and verse 21. Here is the Apostle John. I do not write to you because you do not know the truth. What's the truth? The truth as revealed in the Torah, the truth as revealed in the prophets, the truth as revealed in the stars. The Magi read the stars. But because you know it, not just because you know it, because you guard the truth, which is exactly what we hear all over Deuteronomy, with Deuteronomy 12 that we just read. Guard this truth because you know it. Guard the truth. And look at this. I put it in orange so that it pops out at you. And because no falsehood, no lie is of the truth. If it's a lie, it is not the truth. If it is a lie that is in opposition to what Abba's word has already said, it is not the truth. And he's speaking to people, he says, who know the truth, who guard the truth. No falsehood, no lie is of the truth. But who is the liar? Who is the one that declares what is not in the Torah to be true? Who is the one that declares other days, other feast days, other ceremonies, other priesthoods, other concepts, other signs, other wonders? Who is the one that declares this? Except the one that is denying Yeshua is the Messiah, not the Christ, the Messiah, the King of Israel. The one who denies that, the one who denies the truth, the one who believes the lie, this is the anti-Messiah. And the one denying the Father and the Son. Don't have the Son, we don't have the Father. We cannot have the Father without the Son. There is no getting to the Father without the high priest, period. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Have you ever realized that that's what these scriptures are telling us? He wasn't born on December 25th. There was no commandment, no instruction to take a pagan holiday. I've talked with other people that are leaders amongst the religious world today. And I had a discussion, really an argument with somebody one day. They said, well, don't you think that we should, as Christians, Christianize all these pagan holidays and make them Christian? No, I don't. because that is not the truth. The truth was get rid of those things. Remove those things. Get them out. Let the truth be in there. Break down the altars. Break down the Asherah poles. Break down the holidays. Break down all the ceremonies. Get rid of them. Crush them. Burn them. Get them out of your heart. That was the commandment. The commandment is not to Christianize everything, to take over other holidays and sort of just put a stamp on it that says Messiah or says Christ. So when was he born? Now listen, there's some good stuff out there. There's some people that think that I've heard some neat stuff about people saying, well, maybe he was born around Passover. You know, he's a Passover lamb. He was born around Passover, and you know, and that makes him a Passover, and that's even a good connection to Moses and all the rest of that. But Abba already told us. If you know the Maserat, he already told us when this event occurs, and he never instructed us to celebrate it. Never instructed us to memorialize it. Not in the 1st century, the 2nd century, the 3rd century, the 4th century, until Rome takes over. Revelation chapter 12 and verse 1. And a great sign was seen in the heavens, in the heavenly scroll, the Maserat. What's the sign? A woman, Virgo, clad with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head 12 stars. And being pregnant, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. Guys, look at the picture right next to me. I'm going to use pink so it pops out. Revelation 12, all of Revelation. If you don't know the Maserat, there's no way to really understand Revelation. Revelation 12, he is explaining a constellation. He's telling us the constellation that is prominent in the sky, the constellation the Magi would have been looking at, and then months later make it to Jerusalem to worship the one born King of the Jews, King of Israel. And what is Virgo? Virgo, here it is, the constellation Virgo. And she has, clad with the sun, she has the moon at her feet, and above her head in the constellation Leo, there are 12 stars. The nine stars that make up Leo, and Venus, Mars, and Mercury. All of them together make up 12 stars, a crown above her head. Revelation 12 is telling us when the Messiah is born. Verse 5, and she bore a male child who was to shepherd all the nations with a rod of iron. When does this constellation appear in the Middle Eastern sky? It only appears on the Middle Eastern sky, on the ecliptic. It only appears during the fall feast, from trumpets to tabernacles. Now, I'm not telling you what day it was. I'm just telling you what season this is telling us it is. It's telling us, according to the constellations, when the Mashiach came to the earth to be born of a virgin, as has been recorded in the stars, in the story. Here is the Maserat. Here is the literal story. Here is the Torah. Here is the Magi seeing this star come out of this woman, knowing that that is the sign, the image that the King of Israel is born. And when does this occur? This occurs during the fall feast, which Abba already gave us as a time of an appointed season to meet with him. He already told us to come and meet him and worship and praise Father on these dates. He already told us about tabernacling with him. He already gave us all this information. So what happens if we take this story and we plug it into the story of the sun god of every other pagan religion out there? Then it is not the truth anymore. It is a lie. And what's connected with it? Lawlessness. Don't believe the truth. Don't understand the truth. The truth's not for us. In a nutshell, guys. Now, I know this is crazy. Man, I know this is crazy. But think about this for a second. Really, really think about this for a second. Not only does Daniel prophesy the whole Hanukkah story in chapter 8 of Daniel, and then in chapter 12 of Daniel, prophesies what Messiah is talking about Another abomination of desolation that's coming. And all the numbers and everything that we went over with that. Story of Maccabees comes, and it's a prophecy lived out, literally lived out by the house of Israel. The Greeks come in, destroy, wipe out the Torah, lawlessness, set up an idol, worship, eat pig, all the rest of that. It not only tells us what the abomination of desolation is, the setting up of a pagan idol, the setting up of an image of a man, but it tells us when the abomination of desolation is coming. When is it coming? On the 25th of Kislev, in the winter solstice. The abomination of desolation, as set up in the book of Maccabees as a historical event, not only tells us, let me go back here, not only tells us how and what it is, it tells us when it is. This is prophecy. And when is it? Guys, that's the abomination of desolation. Right there. Right there. And how many hearts all across the world, all across humanity, have set this up as an image of a man within their temple. And we've put up everything the Greeks did. Groves and trees, Yule logs, the whole idea of a Yule log. When you look this up, it's crazy. It's the burning of this log that signifies time of debauchery and sex and just total craziness. The setting up of a druid, of a Viking on a sleigh with a reindeer, because that's where the story actually comes from. It's the setting up of mistletoe, which is a sign. It's a talisman to let you know that house is open to sexual debauchery. It's the setting up of talismans on your door to ward off evil spirits during the winter solstice, because it's dark. It's the story of Krampus, an evil demonic being. Again, this is all directed at children, by the way. An evil demonic being that punishes the children and gives them no gifts, instead leaves coal for them, for those that have done wicked and evil. And he follows Nicholas around. It is the story of the Saturnalia, the 12 days of Christmas, or the time from December 25th to January 6th. It's the time of the counting of the month. I forgot what that's called. It's not a Tiffany calendar. I forgot what it's called. Somebody can help me out with that. But a calendar telling you all the days leading up to the winter solstice. And it's a lie. It's not the truth. It's not the truth. It's not the day of the Master's birth. It's not the day of the birth of the King of Israel. And no lie can be of the truth. That lie makes it anti-Messiah. I know. It's heavy. It's heavy. It's crazy. And I know, obviously, most of us that are watching, we're not doing this stuff. We've learned this stuff. We realize it's pagan, but we haven't yet realized the full magnitude of this, because we're all being told an abomination of desolation is coming down the road. Beloved, I'm telling you, the abomination of desolation came a long time ago, and we memorialize it year after year after year after year. 'Tis the season. This is the season, and the whole world's doing it. The whole world is doing it from December 25th all the way to January 6th. Every single person, every single continent on this planet, in some way, in some shape, or in some form. In some form. 'Tis the season. I know it's a heavy. I get it. I know it's heavy. Go back. I'm sorry for the technical stuff. But I just think the enemy just does not want people to hear this. I know it's radical. I know it's in your face. I know this is not going to win you friends. I know. Trust me. I know. But I'm asking for eyes to see, ears to hear, and most importantly, whether I like what I hear or I don't, a heart that's willing to obey. 'Tis the season, guys. 'Tis the season. This is the end of our series that we've been going through for a while on the mark, the name, the number. I'm sure we're going to get back and talk about some other things, later. There's so much more to talk about. But I've been leading up to this. I wanted to tell you guys about this so many weeks ago, so many months ago. But there was so much we had to learn first to get us to this place. You just tell people this, and they're just going to look at you like, you're nuts or crazy. But if you do all the studies in order, as we've done them, and you gain it line upon line, this all begins to make a lot more sense. And so, guys, I hope that you enjoyed that series. I hope you're enjoying our Wednesday studies. Again, don't forget, there will not be a study next week. We're going to take off for that week. Got a lot of catching up and things to do. We will have Hidden Manna this upcoming Friday, but that next Friday, there will not be any Hidden Manna. But, of course, we're going to be broadcasting our Shabbat services each Saturday, so there'll definitely be, teachings and stuff for you guys to learn. Got a great one coming up for you this Saturday as we talk about what it means that men love darkness. Another message, another day. In the meantime, guys, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that button. Give us a thumbs up. If you enjoyed the message, give us a thumbs up right now. Stop right now. Give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. Crazy stuff. Crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. This story is absolutely amazing. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. Don't forget to check us out this upcoming Friday at 7:30 and Morning Manna tomorrow morning. Guys, in the meantime, have an awesome night out there. Yah bless. Shalom.